this is what we're looking at here, right? Our experience, the full breadth of our experience, not just the pleasant, but the full breadth of our experience. And to bring wisdom and compassion and skillful means with which to navigate the challenges in our lives, the difficult times. And a lot of what we talk about is self-created suffering. A lot of it is self-created suffering. But we also all experience challenges, physical, mental, emotional. We all experience it. And our habit is to always push back on those experiences, just making it worse. Just making it worse. So what we're trying to do here is to say, okay, how can we allow these unpleasant experiences to move through us without rocking us, right? Without tipping us over, right? And of course, the answer is always to come in and feel it. The story is always way more frightening than what we're really genuinely feeling. Right? When we come into what we're feeling, it's not as scary. It's not as scary. And the more you get comfortable coming into your feelings and feeling them, because that's just another habit, right? There's the clenching, because every time the thoughts are going out, the ego's arising, there's a clenching, right? And the story gets more wild and gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then the next thing we're on the news or social media or YouTube or having a drink or having a smoke or doing something to distract ourselves from the feeling, right? It's such a domino effect. And so we're trying to break that, right? Is to say, okay, here it came, just feel it, just feel it. All of these things that we're trying to do to stuff down, to avoid these feelings, they're not dissipating the feelings. They're just keeping us further from knowing the feelings, which is the path to being released from them, is to come in and feel and to surrender, to breathe, feel it, and surrender to whatever it is that's arising. Because whatever it is that's arising has arisen. You can't push it away. You cannot fight this stuff. It's practicing being okay with it. And this is what we're reinforcing here, because if you were to ask someone in the street and they, if you weren't in a Sangha setting, most people would say, sit with my unpleasant feelings. Are you nuts? I'm not doing that. I'm heading into the bar, right? I'm going to play on my phone for a while, right? They wouldn't even see the benefit in that. So there's also a language that we speak here that helps to just keep reminding us, because the thought habits and patterns and the belief that I should not be experiencing anything unpleasant, they are so, so strong. So even as meditators and practicing mindfulness, being more aware, practicing coming into the heart, when we're on our own, right, it's like, oh, no, I think I do need to push back on this. I think I do need to be angry with that person. Right? I think I do need to judge myself for what I just did back there. It's so strong, that impulse. And so a lot of the times, we're just reminding a lot of the same things, different ways, kind of coming into this through different ways. But it's helping to dial back those beliefs about how we see ourselves, what our experience should be, what it shouldn't be. And so this is why Sangha is so important. Because we are overriding a lifetime of beliefs, false beliefs of the world and ourselves, and also just all that time that we're spending in our societies that are also just not in tune with this belief. It doesn't work very well in a materialist society. So, right, So this is where this is such a safe place for us to keep remembering and to keep being reminded over and over. That's right. And if you notice when you're being reminded of these things, if it is bringing you into a sense of ease and peace, and I think Char, you had said that earlier, when you hear the words, because you're hearing the truth. And when you hear the truth, it opens something up inside of us. Right? And we do have to hear it over and over and over again. And then eventually it does become your truth because you're paying attention, you're being mindful, you're taking the teachings to heart and practicing. And then eventually they do become your truth. So yeah, this is again just such an important reason for Sangha. It's so important. So important. And thank you, Raz. Thank you so much for the donation. Let's go back to Sue. Hi, Sue. Thank you. I feel supported. In your spiritual journey. I'm so glad. So much practice for me to surrender and to stop fighting feelings, connecting with thoughts. Yeah. Yeah, that is a habit. It's just like a habit, like going on and checking our phone, going to the fridge. It's the habit of thought. It's our biggest addiction. It is our biggest addiction, is just thinking, constantly thinking that somehow we're adding to our experience, or that we'd fall apart. We wouldn't know what to do if I wasn't always thinking, right? We actually surprisingly really do know what to do. And of course, to still think when we need to think. We're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater here, right? To think. But to not be thinking about ourselves so much. Whenever you think about yourself, you will suffer. You will, right? What do I want? What do I not want? That's where the suffering comes from. Right? When we're thinking about others, right? This is why compassion practices, loving kindness, care, gratitude, forgiveness, like it feels so good, right? It feels so good to think about others. So yeah, it's tough. Yeah, it's tough to break the habit of thinking. Feel more. And I always kind of think, like, imagine like as if your head is kind of cut off. Just feel more. You can still see. Feel more. We don't use our senses. We really don't. We see, in fact, even we're walking around, we think we're looking. Of course, we know when we trip over something we really weren't, or we wander into the wrong place, like, I didn't mean to go here, right? We're not really looking, because we're in our heads imagining I'm already there doing it, or I'm off to the next thing, or I'm still thinking about the thing back there, right? And so feeling your body. This is, so also I would recommend, Sue, the walking meditation that Raz brought up in the beginning of our discussion. Such a good practice. As your eyes are open and you're moving, to keep bringing your mind back into the body, feeling the body, feeling each part of the foot as it comes down, feeling it lifting, feeling it coming down, feeling the clenching as the mind reaches out for the next moment, feeling it back, bringing it back, breathing, and really getting that using your senses a little more in the walking meditation, at least definitely seeing and feeling. Well, seeing what you're not getting in the sitting meditation, unless you do sit with your eyes open. But yeah, as another good practice to keep practicing coming back. Oh, from Lana, sometimes when I feel equanimity, it makes others pretty cross because I truly can't get emotional about an issue. That's a great point that you brought up. Be careful, because you still want to keep your equanimity. But it is difficult when someone's getting all worked up about something. And so we don't want to turn our equanimity into indifference. Meaning, it can feel like someone is suffering. someone's getting worked up about something, and they can sometimes take our equanimity as indifference to their suffering. You don't have to get caught up in the issue, but it's more just like an understanding of like, I get that you're super upset and worked up about this. I really get it. I get it. Like, empathize, right? So as part of our equanimity, to still empathize with other people, like, absolutely. We don't want to be indifferent to others' suffering, just like, well, I'm not getting worked up in it. They're suffering. And so to focus more on it from that viewpoint of, I get you're upset about this, and it sucks, and it sucks. Like, acknowledge and acknowledging their feelings. It sucks. Like, yeah, it sucks. Something happened. It sucks. Like, yeah, it's okay. You don't have to get worked up as long as you're going along, as long as you are just acknowledging how they're feeling and feeling compassion because they're suffering, because it can create a wedge. If our equanimity is not rooted in wisdom, it can create a wedge. So if someone is suffering and they're working up about it, like, you're not focusing on, you're right, that, getting angry at someone, or if you kind of focusing it on the object so much as, for them, oh, I'm so sorry. That does suck. That sucks. I'm so, so sorry. Yeah, and you can, of course, put in little bits of like, well, there's nothing we can do about it now. Like, man, what can we do? Or, bring questions, but to bring more wisdom into to be more skillful with your equanimity practice. Yeah, and I know that only because I know going through that in the beginning, and you just kind of like, well, it doesn't bother me. And then people are irritated with us. And so we want to make sure it's rooted in wisdom. Okay, so just maybe think about that a little bit. So, all thanks, Lana. Okay, just from Sue. And then what were your steps for surrender? Oh, I just think breathe first, always and in that breath, feeling the breath moving through the body, feeling that opening, because we're always like this, right? So that big breath, breathe, feel, exhale, surrender. Just, I surrender. I surrender. And in the beginning, there is a little bit of faith in that surrender. You don't know where you're going to land. You don't know if there's a landing at all. There's a little bit of faith that's needed there in the beginning. But as you keep doing it and you keep doing it, then it becomes based more on wisdom. Every time I let go, I started to flow back into that the dance of life again. I was flowing again. Every time I surrender, it doesn't matter what you are grasping at, what you are holding on to, what's bothering you, what you did that you're embarrassed about, or what mistake you made. Every time you surrender, so breathe, feel, and surrender. It's like, oh, because you're surrendering. There's so much happening, right? Surrendering to whatever it is, the physical pain, the emotional pain, the mental pain, right? Whatever it is that you're surrendering to, you are present with, you are really accepting what is happening. You're not fighting the tsunami anymore. You can't fight it. We want to flow with life, right? To keep being the river that we are. And yet we keep trying to dam it up. It's like, no, just keep being the river. Sometimes the river's a little bumpy, right? Sometimes you're going across some rocks, or some logs are in the way or something. Like, okay, no problem, but surrender, surrender, surrender. Keep surrendering. Because every time you do that, you really let go. You really, truly, whatever it is, let me surrender. And there's a coming out into the openness and the vastness and even though there's nothing solid there, there's this safety there's a safety, a feeling of, I was holding on to nothing and causing my suffering. All I needed to do was let go. And keep practicing and practicing little things, surrendering, little moments, right? And then keeps building up to bigger moments, to bigger moments, to bigger moments. And as we've been talking about on the Sunday Sangha on Insight, surrendering because you are arising in each moment based on 1,000,000, billion, trillion different causes and conditions. Whatever, I'm going to go back to your original question, Gary, like whatever, or comment, whatever was pulling you into that negative thought stream or negative energy, right, was millions and billions of trillions of different causes and conditions and previous moments, all this stuff arising. It's all arising. You can't fight this. You can't fight this. Like we're fighting our very own, our existence in that moment is what we're fighting. And that is the final surrender. When you are really surrendering, or not the final like you, but the surrendering based on wisdom. Oh my God, I was fighting this all this time. And I just needed to let go. That's all I needed to do, which sounds so simple. It sounds so simple. It's not easy. It's not easy. That's why I said start with little things. Little things. Surrender. Notice you have a little creak in your back or something, right? And it's like, oh, the mind gets in there and it's like, oh, okay, let me just try surrendering to this. I have a few moments. I don't have to be anywhere. I'm just going to lie down and I'm going to surrender. And I'm just going to, as if I'm like, take me away. I'm surrendering. I'm giving this all up. And just being with it, feeling it, right? Breathing, feeling it. But surrendered, not pushing back. And so, if it's a little ache and a pain, or a little disappointment, or a little transgression against you, practice on little things. Little things. And then as the challenges arise, because you will keep getting the lessons. You will keep getting the lessons. Doesn't mean you don't keep getting the same experiences afterwards, but they're no longer lessons because you don't react to them. But you will keep getting them. And so, it's not that the lessons even change. It's just that they're no longer lessons. They're just causes and conditions. Oh, yeah. Sometimes I've experienced unpleasant conditions. Yeah. I mean, that's everyone's experience, right? And the more that you surrender, just the more that you surrender, and you start trusting that, you're trying to hold everything together in your thoughts. You're desperately trying to hold it all together. You're not holding anything together. And that's what's causing all the suffering. And so you just keep trying. And we just keep surrendering. And you keep hearing it like you're hearing it now. Surrender, surrender. I think in the meditation, there was a part where I was saying that. Like, breathe, feel surrender. Like, exhale, feel that, oh, I just surrender. If this pain has to stay here for the rest of my life, okay, I surrender to it. I surrender to it, right? Whatever it is, I will surrender to it because I am not controlling all of these millions and billions of trillions of things. I can't hold the tsunami back any more than I can hold back whatever feeling is arising. I can come in and experience it based on a cause and condition of spiritual practice, right? And changing it in that way, but it's a cause and condition. And sometimes you'll do it and sometimes you won't, and you're not controlling that either. Because then we come in and we beat ourselves up. I didn't surrender. And we remember, oh, that's right. I'm not controlling this either. And in that, you surrender again. Thank you, Raz. Peace and love to you as well. And thank you, Louisa, and thank you, Lana. Thank you both so much for the donation. Thank you. Oh, Martin, yes, flow with life, open to what is. What else could we possibly be open to? Right? I can tell you get it just in the way you wrote that. It's like we're always thinking I want to be over there. Right? We're trying to control the ride instead of just enjoying the ride that we are. Right? We're just always trying to push it along over there and push along over there instead of just letting go and letting it all unfold. Surrender, 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 surrender. You won't lose your ability to plan. You won't lose your ability to be kind. You will be kinder to yourself and others. You will be more patient with yourself and others. You will be more forgiving, more generous. And the thoughts that you do have are clearer because they're not based in ego. Right? It's not, oh, how am I going to look if I do this over here? Will I fail? Will I succeed? It's like, yeah, the conditions are arising. I think this could benefit. Let's do it. Let's see where it goes. That's the adventure in surrender. In surrender. So keep practicing surrendering. Just practice, practice, practice for everyone. Practice surrendering. Little bits, little surrenders, building up to big surrenders. And as we keep exploring, and we're going to keep exploring on Insight Timer on next Sunday's Sangha. Again, I'm still going to stay on this theme because I think we need to keep exploring it a little bit more about there's nothing solid and independent in here. Doesn't mean we don't exist. We all exist, but we do not exist the way you think you exist. We do not exist as a solid, independent entity. We are arising and changing moment by moment by moment by moment based on all the causes and conditions that are arising in that moment. How could I possibly fight all of that? But we don't see that. We think we are controlling everything. We think we are controlling it in our thoughts. We think we are controlling what our neighbors are doing, what the weather is doing. Actually, we might give up the weather. But in so many ways, we think we are controlling. We think we are controlling us. And that is when the surrender is based on wisdom. There's nobody driving the wheel. And yet, I've been doing all these things all my life based on causes and conditions. You don't turn into a blob, right? You just let go of all the suffering. And all the things that you reached for, that you thought were going to complete you, all the bad habits. Those last few ones, whatever it was that you were kind of trying before, they just fall away. Why would I do that? Why would I do that? You just want to rest in the flow because you don't know what's going to happen next. None of us knows what's going to happen next. I have a plan to go take my mom. My mom's visiting here for a few months. We're going to go to lunch, right? Whether we get there or not, who knows? Maybe on the way we see a stray dog and we end up picking it up, and then the adventure takes another turn, right? Or I get off the phone, off this call, and she says, I'm not hungry anymore. Oh, okay. Change of plan. No attachment to anything. I wasn't going to be complete at the restaurant. I'm not going to be any more complete if we don't go. I'm complete because I'm not separating myself into two, imagining there's a little Meredith that's going to be happy somewhere else other than where she is. We don't know where this is going. We often talk in Zen, Buddhism, beginner's mind, and which is such a good thing for our practice to always have that, like, don't assume you know everything, right? Even when you've seen things, don't assume. There's always, humility is such an important part of our practice, being humble. Because even as you discover and see more things, it just opens up. In fact, it just opens up. There's more and more layers. And it's like, oh my God, I couldn't even begin to explain how all this is happening. But I can see that it is. I can see that it is, and there's nothing here. So being humble about our practice. And with that kind of mindset of beginner's mind, also just, I don't know mind. I don't know what's going to happen next. There's a plan. Let's see what happens. Let's see if it unfolds. And if it does, it's like, wow, that's amazing. It kind of worked out exactly how we thought it was going to work out. Because it is amazing. We take it for granted. Particularly in the West, we take it for granted when things work. come live down here in Mexico. It's a good awakening to see that things don't always work. And it's great because you do kind of laugh like, oh, thought it was going to go this way. I guess it went another way. So, yeah, we get almost in the West what things do. A train says they're going to be there a certain time. They mostly are. The plane is mostly there at the time. Mostly. Things, people show up for appointments mostly on time. And so there's this kind of sense that, yes, everything's working, but really just one little thing in that plan you had would have gone a different way. But we take it for granted. So taking that beginner's mind, which is wonderful to have in our practice, we should always have, but also into our, I don't know, mind. I don't know what's going to happen. I have a plan. Let's see. Let's see how it turns out. And then you are more present. You're paying attention. Oh, I wonder how this goes. And when it goes the way you expected, really having gratitude. Wow. Appreciating it. That's amazing. It's amazing that all of these things I was able to simulate, and it actually did go that way. That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Right?